Hi, my name is Nick, and I am a nervous system oriented therapist, so nervous system expert. I use functional neurology, which is the study of how to assess and correct neurological pathways in the nervous system. And I also use mind body medicine, which is essentially connecting symptoms of the mind and the body and integrating human beings. So I haven't posted a lot on this channel for a while for a variety of reasons. I've been focusing more on my Instagram channel, building education and educating practitioners. But I wanted to start to speak a little bit more on this channel to you guys, just to offer a bit more insights about what I do, where I've come from, why I do what I do, a little bit about my story, and then offer some quick tips and then direct you to other bits of education that I have. Essentially, how did I end up where I am right now? It started probably about 15 years ago. It probably started a lot longer than that. I'll probably go right back to my childhood, as early as being a young boy. I remember looking around the world and thinking that we lived in a funny old place, meaning that it just seemed like there was something wrong. It didn't seem right. It seemed like people were under too much stress or strain, and there was just too much pressure. Anyway, I just distinctly remembering that when I was young and having that thought in my mind. But I grew up as most kids did and got into my teens and did all the rebellious stuff and rebelled at school, didn't do well at all, was too concerned with the girls and fights and hanging out with the bad boys, all that sort of stuff. And I was quite lost when I left high school, and I left early and started to do some trade work and ended up joining the Australian military, the Australian Army, as a combat soldier. I went into the Army thinking maybe I'll go get a trade or become an engineer or something like that. And then I thought, hang on a second, no, what's the hardest job in the military? That's infantry soldier. That's to put a pack on your back and walk long distances and fight with the enemy. And that was a great career that I did for, a bit over 6 years, 7 years, and was able to be deployed to multiple combat zones in the Middle East in the early 2000s. And that was a great experience. There was a lot of frustrations with that experience as well. And for that reason, rather than going on a long career into the Special Forces, which was my original plan, I just thought at the time, maybe I'll get out and experience more of the world and just see what the world has to offer. And what actually happens with a lot of guys in the military is we stay in for too long and we become institutionalized. And once you're institutionalized, when you actually come out into the world, you don't really know what to do. So I thought, I've done a good little stint so far. I love the military. I love and hate it, but I thought I'll get out for a little bit, test out the world, see what happens, and if it doesn't work out, I'll come back in. So I got out, had a long-term partner at the time, met up with her, and then got into fitness and personal training. That was the career I fell into. Thought, that's something nice to be fit. I need to be fit for the Army, so maybe I'll just do fitness. Sort of didn't really know where it was going to take me. But very early on, when I worked in a big gym, there was an education stream there that was informed by the work of Paul Chek and the Chek Institute. And the little stuff that I learned there around holistic health and how to treat back pain and how to switch on the core, that little work that I learned, those little extra courses that we did, I was able to start working with people to correct like back pain, long-term back pain actually, through some of my clients who's been seeing multiple other practitioners. And it was about really working on the inner unit of the core, working on the breathing, integrating breathing with the core, and was able to help people get out of long-term pain. And so that sort of flicked a switch in my mind where I thought, hang on a second, there's more to this gym stuff than bodybuilding. I can actually help people get out of pain. So that flicked a switch in my brain. But then what actually happened is I went through what a lot of veterans go through, a lot of military veterans, doesn't matter what country you served. There was a period, a few years after I left, where things just started to crash down. I was drinking too much, partying too much, and had a lot of relationship breakdowns in one go. And I didn't really know it at the time. Now knowing what I know now as a nervous system guy, is I had probably a traumatic brain injury. And that was probably from a result of lots of drinking and partying growing up, lots of head hits from playing football and American football when I was younger. Then you couple that with a career in the military, we have loud explosions, things like that, and then even more drinking and then eventually drug taking. That had actually given me what I would consider a brain injury, which led to bouts of hyperaggression. I was being violent, always getting into the fights and things like that. And just basically trying to destroy my life. This was in my late 20s. And I'm 41 now. And in my late 20s, everything fell apart. At age 27 to 32, they say if you don't have your shit together, this is where stuff is going to fall apart. And it did. And looking back now, I'm very thankful of that period in life, because I went to rock bottom. I lost my identity, which was the military, and I was starting a career in fitness. And because I was running a business, I couldn't handle it all. So I just basically had to throw it all, put it on pause for a bit, my career in health, and work in hospitality for a bit. And that was an enjoyable period because it was a bit more relaxed, and I got to have a bit more fun, but not in a destructive way. As I was trying to work out my next move, okay, and I knew deep down that there was this thing around healing and healing people, but it was more on the holistic side. So I was looking at studying medicine. I thought, nah, it's too political, it'll probably drive me crazy. And I was looking at physiotherapy or psychology, something that blended the both of them. And then it wasn't until I met a massage therapist and they said you should study this thing called kinesiology. I'm like, what is kinesiology? What does that mean? Now, if you're in America and you're watching this, kinesiology means athletic training or strength and conditioning or exercise physiology, essentially. In Australia, we would say kinesiology is an offshoot of what's called applied kinesiology, which is invented by the chiropractor, Dr. George Goodhart. And that is a form of therapy that essentially balances stress within the body and the nervous system. And so when I learned this, and I eventually bit the bullet to go and learn this because I was fired from my job as a bar manager in Sydney, which again, another thankful twist of fate. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go learn this stuff that I'm terrified of learning, because I don't want to be seen as not like learning weird alternative health stuff, but I knew it was where I wanted to go. And as soon as I started to study the course, I was like, this is it, this is the thing. And what we were seeing with how the body worked and how the energy systems and the nervous system worked, I was like, this is amazing. But I remember being very curious early on. I have quite an analytical and logical mind. I want to know, okay, I can see something happening, but how does that actually work? And I would ask the question, and it wasn't a clear answer that I would get. I knew it was something to do with the nervous system. It was seeing these changes in the body, and it was happening quick and often lasting as well. And so that I started to become obsessed with the nervous system. Started to learn about the vagus nerve. This was over 10 years ago when none of this was really in vogue. The vagus nerve, the stress response, all that sort of stuff. And by chance, I'd gone on to study a degree in manual therapy, so hands-on therapy called myotherapy in Australia, which is like the highest level of soft tissue therapy. And that more satisfied my scientific anatomy, physiology mind. And then what actually happened there is I started to study what was called functional neurology. And depending on who you talk to, in America, it's chiropractic neurology, but there are offshoots that kind of blend the chiropractic neurology with the muscle testing from kinesiology. And that's there's quite a few modalities that do that. And that's where I started to gravitate towards. And I studied a system called AMN, which is Applied Movement Neurology, invented by David Fleming, an amazing genius of a guy. And I started to apply that stuff at the same time I was studying, and I was starting up in clinic, and then the results I was getting were crazy. And people were like, it looks weird, it's like tapping on the head and swiping things, but it was working. And at the time I couldn't wrap my head around how it was working, but it was working. So obviously words started to spread, started to get more results, started to become known as a bit of a wizard. And that's not something I set out to do, but it does feel good when you can get results. That really sparked even further interest into this subject. So I went and studied everything from AMN all the way up to the top, became a master practitioner, loved it, and then sought out other systems and studied all their stuff and just started to understand more and more about the nervous system. The more and more I did that, the better results I got, the more I would start to get clients who nothing else would work and then come and see me, and in 1 or 2 sessions they'd get massive changes. And with some other people that was more complex, so we'd have to spend a long period of time working. And it started to show to me that, it's not about the modality. There's no special sauce there. Sometimes it's a really simple approach, like breathing properly or drinking enough water, which is the thing that's going to actually get the result for you or for my clients. And over time, employed as an educator at the college that I studied at, and that taught me about how to break things down and explain things in a more simple way. And I really liked working with practitioners. And over the years, I thought in my mind that maybe if I figure out a way that works with the nervous system that is an improvement on or adds to what's already out there, then I might teach it. But I never was going to force it, or even though many people were asking me, like, when are you going to release your courses? I was like, no, it's not the right time, because it's not really an improvement on what's already out there. Why release it if it's not going to be better than or more integrated? So it took me a long time. I had to sequester myself, and as a vivacious learner that wants to keep learning, I had to let what I'd learned over those previous 10 years about the nervous system, and a lot of that learning came in the clinic room, working with over 10,000 hours in one-to-one sessions, and some of the stuff I'd seen was just crazy. And so then I just started to put together a simplified approach to working with the nervous system, which was essentially the individual nervous system knows exactly what it needs. There needs to be either a change in the input coming from the receptors in the nervous system up to the central nervous system. That's where the issue is, or the issue is in the integration centers within the brain itself. And so the system I taught is really, that's it in a nutshell. And so I've tried to break down what could be a very complex system to learn, being the nervous system, into quite a simplified, but not dumb, a simplified and systematic approach that most people can learn. That is my passion. That's what I teach practitioners, but I also work with many people like yourself to help balance their nervous system. So that's really where I want to come at moving forward, is if you're interested in working with me to learn what I do and how I teach my practitioners to help their ideal clients, because if you look around the world, there is so much nervous system dysregulation out there, and nearly every condition out there has some form of nervous system involvement: chronic pain, anxiety, headaches, migraines, post-concussion, fatigue. There's usually a nervous system involvement. And moving forward in these videos, I'm going to start to cover the specific levels of the nervous system, levels of importance, why they're important, what their function is within the nervous system, how that then affects other parts of the nervous system, and then how that affects our general health. Because at the end of the day, if you're watching this, you're probably in a state where you maybe want to shift, or you're on the path of trying to get better, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, or all of that. And we are our own best physician, we are our own best doctor. But if our nervous system is frazzled and it's highly wired and highly strung, we can try and do the right thing, but the nervous system itself is going to hijack us from actually making those good choices. So that's it in a nutshell of my background and my story and why I got here. 15 years of relentless study and research, going through a lot of physical and emotional pain myself, and becoming an expert in one of the most complex systems in the human body, but now I'm at the position I really want to share that with you, share that with the world, and show you that the solutions are actually often quite simple, but we need to understand, because what stops people a lot of the times getting the result is not the therapy that they choose, it's when they chose that therapy. So I'll make that a bit clearer. So there's a lot of stuff going around about breath work and ice baths and meditation. Now, those things are brilliant tools, but if those things are done at the wrong time and the wrong sequence with a dysregulated nervous system, they're either not going to work or they're going to make you worse. If that's you, leave a comment below, because I know many clients and patients that have gone through that. But from now, what I'm going to try and do is explain the key concepts of the nervous system so you can understand it, and understand yourself more, understand maybe your family and friends, clients, and then we're going to go on a journey of healing and integrating through all the levels until we get to the point where we can start to own and take full responsibility for what's going on within us. That's our emotions, and then take action to move forward in a empowered way rather than coming from a state of victimhood. So that's me for today. I just went off the top of my head, bit of a reintroduction to you on this channel. I look forward to offering you lots of value and seeing if we can make a change in the world, a ripple effect across the world, so we can clear our trauma, get balanced, get integrated, own our stuff, heal our inner child, and just become our best selves. So that's it for me. I'll see you next time.